What's good, everybody? Happy New Year. It's 2021. Finally getting 2020 out of here.
Get it gone.
Get it gone. It's your boys at the Spectators. I'm Brooklyn. I'm here with my boy Ju.
Yo.
We gonna break down the whole year for you. We gonna go through month by month and just react to everything that's happened this year. It's been a pretty wild year, to say the least.
Yeah, wild to say the least.
To say the least.
And
but
we had a lot of stuff happen despite not having sports for a good chunk of the year.
Yeah.
A lot of important events and just unprecedented things. And shout out to ESPN. They made a really cool kind of website kind of deal that breaks down the whole year. So we're going to go through that website, show you guys what that looks like. We'll leave the link to the site down below if you're interested in checking it out for yourself. But yeah, I think we're just going to get right into it, huh?
Let's get right into it.
So here we go. Sports year in photos. And this is all of 2020, starting from the top and all the way to the end of it.
Big shout out to whoever made this article.
Yeah, this is cool.
This is dope. And you'll see as we go down, there's a lot of cool things within it.
Yeah, so let's just get the scrolling. January. Some weird, like the first day it kind of starts weird with just hockey and outside in Texas. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, because we always get the Winter Classic on New Year's Day. So I think that's a really cool thing with hockey that they do that. And also on the first day of the year, we also lost Commissioner David Stern, too, which isn't on here. But that was a huge way to start the year, just a big blow to the NBA.
Literally day one.
Yeah.
Also, on the first, we had, like, the second part of the bowl games. And I know, like, Oregon wound up winning the Rose Bowl. So that one's important to me. So it seemed like a good start for a second there.
It was teetering on both ways. You didn't know where to take it. And it definitely leaned all the way to the left.
12 days later, you have not the rise, but the true like Heisman moment for Joe Burrow, where he really solidifies his place in college football history. Has an absolutely unbelievable game against Clemson, 6 touchdowns. They roll over Clemson, who's been a powerhouse for as long as it's been, and Bayou Joe has a place in LSU history.
And just caps off one of the best just college football performances.
And just seasons ever for a team.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It was nuts. This right here.
Boom, 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 boom. Astros get caught cheating. No, they don't want to admit it. They still haven't been, and they still really haven't been punished either. But they get caught in their cheating scandal. Hinch gets fired, not on this day, but eventually.
It was just such a fumble the way they handled the whole situation, man. And we've talked about it throughout the year. We're not going to sit too much on it because we'll spend the whole episode.
We very easily could.
It's terrible. It's terrible, bad for the sport.
But Astros, you suck. We hate you. We don't like you.
On to the next one.
Zion's first game, he didn't start right away. Pretty cool stuff. Welcome to the league, Zion. This one right here. LeBron passes Kobe Bryant in all-time scoring. They go in Philly, so Kobe's hometown, which is kind of weird. His hometown. Was he at the game?
I don't think so. I don't believe he was there. No.
He passes Kobe all-time scoring list in his hometown, and then just a couple of hours later, we kind of get the news that Kobe was in that tragic helicopter accident literally the next day.
And the way it happened was so wild because it was on a Sunday, and at that time, we used to record on Sundays. We do it on Mondays now. But I'm taking all my notes, getting ready for the episode, and I remember I'm looking at the scoring list. I see LeBron's name, Kobe's name. I'm taking down the notes, doing all that. I got Kobe's tweet to LeBron right next to me, looking at it. I get a call from Drew. He's like, bro, throw the whole episode away. I'm like, what you talking about?
I literally said throw it away.
Throw the whole episode away. Kobe just died. And, bro, I just sat there. And then after he tells me what happened, we hang up. And I'm just sitting there looking at Kobe's name right there, bro. And I get chills right now talking about it, bro. Like, it was just wild.
Yeah, it was one of those really, really weird things where it was kind of like when Michael Jackson died, where you kind of remember where you were when you found out. It was definitely one of those things. And Brooklyn Loisel put a really good article about kind of the whole grieving process and letting the family grieve and all that good stuff. If you haven't checked that out, it's on our website, so go check that out.
Spectatorsports.com.
Absolutely. So we're not going to harp on it too long, but obviously this was not the best way to start the year in the first month of the year.
Yeah, R.I.P. Kobe, R.I.P. Gianna, and the rest of the people involved in that. Just tragic.
Yeah. Also, I think you can click on all these.
That's really cool.
You can click on all these pictures
really
on the
cool.
site, and it gives you like a little blurb down low, which is really cool.
And that picture right next to it, I believe it was that one, or it was another one of him and Gianna courtside. I remember at a net game a little bit before all that happened, and he was just like teaching her the game, and it's like she would have been that Kobe in the WNBA, you feel like, and pushed the game forward even more. So it's just tough, man.
Yeah, a really big loss, obviously, to start the year, and just an eerie one the day after LeBron passes him too.
It's weird.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So then, Australian Open, Sophia Kenin wins it. We're not too big on tennis, but obviously winning your majors is a big deal. Also, the youngest American girl to ever do that, so that's definitely a big deal.
Oh, sick.
The Chiefs get the ring after 50 years.
50, bro. That's crazy. That
50
fan base.
years, the best quarterback in the world goes in and wins his Super Bowl after winning an MVP already. He had done everything else he needed to do besides get this ring, and it was only year 3. And he went and did it. They're looking on track to do it again.
Yeah, you can't knock it right now.
So
it very much could happen.
The back-to-back is looking real nice. But shout out to the Chiefs. Out in February getting it. Not even a week later.
Don't shout out to the Red Sox.
No shout out to the Red Sox.
No shout out to the Red Sox.
Trading the second best player in the world, Mookie Betts, to the LA Dodgers. And David Price gets thrown in that trade too, which David Price gets a ring for doing literally nothing. So
opts out for the season.
Shout out to David.
You can't blame that. It is what it is.
But shout out.
Yes.
Mookie goes to the Dodgers, becomes their best player pretty much instantly.
And does what Mookie does. Is great.
Goes to the playoffs, is equally as great in the playoffs. They beat the Rays. They win their first title in a long, long time. I don't remember when, but it feels like the Dodgers.
They've been fighting.
The Dodgers should have had one for multiple years now.
Yeah, man, they've been knocking on the door for a while.
Yeah. So they finally get it. They look like they're primed to get a back-to-back too. So good for them. And Mookie Betts is really the primary reason behind it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So this trade, 2-11, that was a big deal.
When you have Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger on your team,
and Corey Seager, come on.
Yeah, the list goes on that team, but just them two right there to lead the pack is wild.
Absolutely. We got a 73.5-foot wave that was surfed on by Maya Gabriella.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just insane.
I don't even know what that is. That's crazy.
That's just insane.
That's nuts. This All-Star game was really cool.
Amazing.
We talked about this, and they had a big Kobe, thing going on.
As you can see, Giannis got the 24 jersey on.
Yeah.
One side, Team Giannis had
24.
24. Team Braun had 2 for Gianna, and it was dope.
It was a really cool game. It was one of the most fun All-Star games
we were both watching it.
It was insane.
Right here, we were watching it going crazy. I've never been that tuned in and excited to an All-Star game.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I watch it, cool, have it on in the background.
Sometimes.
Probably end up,
sometimes.
But bro, we were in it. We were watching it going crazy. Yeah. What's about to happen?
It was a really good time.
It was cool.
So hopefully they keep that format too,
Absolutely.
or something similar. Would be really nice. Then we got this Fury Deontay Wilder fight, which was crazy. I know Wilder came up in his 40 pounds, it's right here. 40 pound suit,
the fit was hard,
looking like Megatron.
Yeah, the fit was hard, bro. But it's like, ugh.
Yeah, and Fury winds up winning this fight because Wilder's people kind of threw in the towel. Yeah. There's a little quote right here that he was not happy about it. He was probably going to lose the fight anyway, but he's not somebody to quit, and I don't think we kind of give him any slack for that. We don't.
No, when somebody else is making the decision for you to throw it in, it's tough. Even though you're probably in that position that you need it, it's like, man, let me go. Even if whatever happens, let it happen.
Yeah, but this was one of the fights that we've been looking forward to for a long, long time. It fully lived up to the hype. It was an incredible fight. We're probably going to get another one.
Yeah,
I'm excited for whenever that happens.
Absolutely.
What else we got? Ovechkin scores his 700th goal.
Shout out Ovi.
He's probably going to wind up making that top of the list by the time his career is over.
And here we are into March.
Yeah, March. This is where it gets not so fun. This is where it gets not so fun. Man. This is a whole China thing where stadiums in China are becoming and arenas are becoming places for people to get brought into. And then 3 days later, the NBA gets Rudy Gobert to test positive, and the NBA decides that it is shutting down. They are postponing the season until further notice. We have more of these pictures and stuff here too. I mean, there was literally an Oklahoma City game with fans. You can see it right here.
I was getting ready to watch that game.
You can see this. Like, they are fully fanned up.
Bro, they were about to tip off.
Yeah.
And then both teams are on the court, ready. And some people come out in suits. You can see them talking to the refs there if you look closely.
Yeah.
And they just cut it out.
Yeah.
And it's nuts, man.
And
it's nuts.
Yeah, so this is the day that the NBA shuts down, and it pretty much causes a massive chain reaction because if somebody as big as the NBA about to get ready for the playoffs decides we're going to postpone this season.
It was nuts.
Obviously, that's a really big deal. So in the following days, the MLB postpones its spring training. That was actually happening already. Postpones that.
And we were just at a game a couple of
days
weeks
before.
Yeah. So it was wild, just the way everything happened. And then, like you said, the trickle-down effect of leagues just shutting down after that.
Crazy.
Like, it was just one by one, they're just gone. Yeah. And you go through your whole life of never having really a day that you don't have sports.
Yeah,
like there might not be a game on.
Days in summer. Yeah,
you might not have a game on, but the next day you got a sport going on, or you got something happening, and then they're just done.
Yeah, so that was a wild couple of days.
Yeah,
and then so you get the MLB, who was supposed to start March 26th, gets pushed back to July. Same day, March Madness has some of their leagues decide they're not going to do their tournament. Not the big one, but their individual, like Big Ten, SEC, Pac-12 tournaments. And then later that day, they decide it's over. The men's and the women's tournament are not going to happen this year, which is absolute. That is like their little tagline is a new madness. I mean, a March without March Madness makes no sense.
And we were hyped for it. We were getting ready for stuff to do. Just. You love March Madness. It's one of the best sporting things throughout the year.
Yeah, and it's just a staple like part of like that time of year too.
Yeah, like you make your brackets, you do all that. You're just in it. Like even if you're not really watching it, you're just making the bracket. Like all right, cool, let's do this.
Yeah.
And now you're tuned in, invested in it. Whoever you are, like there's people that families they just like pick random ones, flip a coin, do all that, pick the teams. And there's something to ride with.
Yeah.
Like, you lose that, and it's like, man.
Yeah. And then we get UFC kind of gets postponed, but they kind of figure out their whole Fight Island kind of deal. This was the start of that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tom Brady, free agent, leaves the New England Patriots, leaves the dynasty, comes to Tampa Bay, our area. Tampa Bay, he gets he gets that trademarked and gets shirts on it and all that. And so far it's worked. They're the 5 seed in the playoffs, and they've been looking really good the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
So cool to see that like experiment kind of work. Pieces are clicking for the Bucks now, but kind of a weird day where it's just like Tom's not a Patriot.
Exactly, and he was like giving us little hints on social media, like am I going to stay? Am I going to go? Does she love me? Does she love me not? Like, just picking the petals. She definitely doesn't.
She doesn't. Never cared.
And then he just ends up in Tampa. It's like, out of all places.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, man.
Kind of crazy.
It's cool.
That's how dynasties and, like, good organizations come to be. They just need that one kind of good thing to happen for them. So, Tom coming to Tampa, really cool thing that happened in March. Probably the only good thing that happened in March, truthfully. Couple days later, the Olympics get canceled, so this is how you know that this has become a worldwide thing. I mean, obviously, I think it was labeled a pandemic just before this, but for the Olympics, the most international event and like one of the most like culturally important events worldwide to happen every 4 years gets postponed. crazy.
Like,
there's so much money and time and people on the line, and they said, it's better that we don't have it this year.
like, could you imagine you're training for 4 years, putting everything into it, and then they're just like, it's not happening.
Yeah, and I know this was big for me because I was planning on going to this. It was out in Tokyo. I was definitely planning on making the move out there, and
but it is rescheduled for 2021. Hopefully,
who knows if it happens? Hopefully,
yeah.
But it'll probably be later in the year, if anything.
And it's weird because like, what happens with the future timeline of it?
Yeah, do they push them back also? Do they kind of just, we're gonna?
Because like, if it gets pushed back another year to 22, and now you got the winter and summer
in 22,
and now do they let people have 2 years to train for the 2024? Yeah, or now do we just get
or do we just push
double Olympic back every single 4 years? Like, it's weird.
It's odd. There's a lot of logistics they got to figure out, but they kind of knew that when they pushed it back, so they'll figure it out. April rolls around. European soccer stops. Crazy. The biggest sports market outside of America in the world is European soccer. Yeah, Premier League, like the Premier League in England, and that's crazy that's coming to an end. Gronk goes to WrestleMania. That's really funny.
And WrestleMania was tough too because that was in Tampa, and I was actually gonna go because I grew up loving wrestling and stuff. Haven't watched it in years since they got past all the. Well, just they got more like PG and stuff, and just haven't been watching it.
We got older,
Yeah. I mean, back then you could still watch all the highlights, and they're still dope. I know you weren't really big into wrestling, but whenever I talk to people that used to be into that, like, they would love it. So I was just gonna go have a little nostalgia, take my nephews and stuff. But then that stops. They start doing that remotely, and then seeing Gronk on there while he's retired was wild. And then he ends up coming out of retirement
to play in Tampa
because Brady goes to Tampa. Is like, all right, I'm playing with my boy, and it's just a roller coaster. And what more do you get from Gronk?
It's exactly what you expect. Joystick MVPs. I mean, this is pretty much the whole year where just streaming and video games became very more so in the limelight. Mm-hmm. Obviously, because we can't go to games and stuff like that. So now you're seeing professional athletes or like celebrities or whatever they are doing streams, playing video games, making it something that's more common. And so this was a really big year for video games.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it because like we had 2K, we had Madden, we had the show, and you get these athletes being able to play and showcase themselves, and it was really cool to see that next level of entertainment that can be brought to you by these athletes and stuff, and just different outlets too with gaming and esports, that there is a market in it and people do like it.
Yeah, and I remember like for the show in particular, game that we played a lot, they had players tournaments where since there's no MLB going on, they had like Blake Snell and Amir Garrett playing each other, or like Joey Gallo and Jeff McNeil were all playing the game against each other.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And it was really cool to kind of see stuff like that where it's like something that we do is similar to like what these professionals also do. Kind of a cool little thing.
And especially not having sports, like that was our only fix. Yeah. So you turn on Twitch and now you're just watching games.
Yeah.
Get games on games.
This one, 417, is the first virtual draft ever. We had a Zoom draft for the WNBA where Sabrina Ionescu was drafted number 1 overall, and that was a whole ordeal. It went very, very smoothly. I don't know if anybody watching this watched that draft. I know we did. It was an incredible draft, honestly. It was like really, really well done for like being the first of its kind. Really big deal for WNBA too. It was like the only thing happening, so a lot of people watched it.
Yeah, all eyes were on them.
All eyes were on them.
It was like template for the NFL to do their draft a couple of days later.
Yeah, and then kind of circling back to the Kobe thing, Sabrina and Kobe had such a big bond, and Kobe had such an important presence in the WNBA that there was a really strong Kobe ceremony and just like feeling around it. And they wound up retiring Gigi and everybody else who was in that accident's number and name into the WNBA Hall of Fame, which was great. Which was like, I was actually crying watching it. It was like a very emotional thing.
Yeah.
And
Big shout out to the WNBA.
Yeah, they've done a really good job with considering everything going on. Then following that up, a couple days later, we get the NFL draft. Same thing. We get Goodell in his bat cave.
I love that.
Yeah,
it was great.
It was wild.
And then you just have the TV in the back pop up with
like
all
the fans.
all the fans booing him. So you had to get that. One thing I love about Goodell, he used to just be one of the worst commissioners. Rob Manfred got that title locked down now.
Yeah, it's true.
But nobody embraces being booed and being the villain more than Goodell. Yeah. And I respect that.
Yeah, I can respect
there
is something to be said about him.
Yeah.
Just like, you know what, I'll do it. And he did it with flying colors during this, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow gets taken number 1 overall. Probably the best wide receiving class we've ever seen, at least like before the draft. And they've all had a really good year after. Just a really good draft. And it was smoother than we expected. Again, they had the template with the WNBA, but it was smoother than expected.
Yeah, it definitely went great. And you saw Goodell just worn out after a certain point because he's just in his chair, leaned back. There's a picture of him, got the card. He's all the way back like this.
He's tired. He's
got the hand up. And it was just wild, bro.
Yeah, so that was cool. We skip over to May.
But one thing we also had in April, right, that they don't have on that, is got The Last Dance early.
Yeah.
ESPN put that out early, was like, all right, everybody's in quarantine, all that. Here you go. Here's a little treat. So we got it was 6-part or 10-part?
It was 10. It was 10, but there were like double episodes.
Yeah.
So 10-part series started at the end of April. We got that. It wound up going through, I think, the first week of July. Mm-hmm. And that was a cool little, like, it felt like when like Game of Thrones was coming out and every week people were waiting in and discussing what happened. The Last Dance was that, and it was pretty much all we had for sports for a long time. So The Last Dance was a really big deal that it maybe otherwise wouldn't have been. Mm-hmm. So that was...
And especially for us, since we lack sports.
We had to talk about
being
something.
A sports podcast and lacking sports, we had to use something. So the draft... April was big for us because we used the draft, we used... The Last Dance, and we were just making it work with that.
Yeah,
and
we figured it out.
Yeah, it was fun.
Fast forward to May, we still have The Last Dance. Korean baseball starts up, so we actually do have some sports somewhere around the country. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool that Korea was able to figure out some, some codes and stuff like that to get all their players safely in and play these games and play out their season. Pretty cool. UFC gets their whole thing figured out. They wind up starting events back up in the beginning of May. And then we get the
match.
We get the match, and it's Tiger and Peyton Manning versus Phil and Tom. We already had the Tiger and Phil 1v1. Mm-hmm. That was really fun. We get the match part 2. This time we have NFL stars.
It's just nuts.
It was really cool, too, because, like, Manning and Brady have always had such a rivalry. They played every year because they always won their divisions, so they were wind up playing every year and then in the playoffs too. And Tiger and Phil had that same type of dynamic. So this was a really fun thing. Also, we didn't want the Masters got postponed, so this was like all we had for golf for a while. Tiger got to hold on to his green jacket a little bit longer than he otherwise would have.
And I love events like this where you can just cross over sports and stuff like that. And I feel like it's set up for the boxing that we got later on in the year that we'll get to.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And then just a bunch of people just kind of doing stuff and training for their events at home.
Yeah, like
we
you
got
see
a lot
videos
of
people doing like quarantine Olympics and all that, and it was fun.
Joey Gallo hitting soft toss in his loft.
Bro, he put a batting cage inside his hotel room with just windows looking out at the city, at the skyline, and just, if you know Joey Gallo, the man hits bombs.
He hits the ball hard.
And he's just doing that in his apartment.
It was wild.
And
we got a bunch of videos of people throwing baseballs at their wall, and there's pictures fencing at home and all sorts of stuff. Really cool to see the athletes kind of going out. Then late May, we have the whole George Floyd incident, which obviously caused a lot of riots, things going around in the country where, Black Lives Matter movement, we kind of got sick and tired of how people were being treated in this country. And so a lot of people took offense to how George was treated. Absolutely. And just people in general that we
Yeah.
have seen this happen to time and time again.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of athletes. This picture has Steven Jackson at one of the rallies. And a lot of athletes just really, really put their foot down and said, I've had enough is enough. These are our people, and we can't be treated like this anymore.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And, I mean, this was obviously a really big deal. It still is a big deal. It's been a big deal for as long as he's been alive.
It sucks that, like, one person has to take the fall for it to really gain the momentum that it needs to. But it's tough, and I really hope that the momentum keeps on going and keeps on growing, and people really realize that things need to change. It don't matter what's been going on. It's time for a change.
Yeah, and if you're looking for places where you can help make those changes, we do have a spot on our website as well. It's a whole Make a Change spot. It has hundreds of links that you could go to help sign petitions, donate places, learn more about not just social or issues like this, but we have everything when it comes to gender issues, race issues, everything of the sorts and everything in between we do have on there. So if you guys do need a resource, we are happy to provide that for you guys.
And if there's something that you care about, let us know. Drop it in the comments. Shoot us a DM on our socials, @_the Spectators, Twitter and IG. Email us, thespectatorsports.com @gmail.com. And yeah, we will happily put whatever links onto there. We'll update it, we'll whatever, because there's things that need to be talked about and discussed and actions be taken upon them, and there's just no avenues to do it. So we will happily bring light to whatever issues you find important.
Absolutely. And we know that not everybody has a full education on every issue under the sun. Mm-hmm. And we just would like to be able to source where if you do want to learn more about something and do become more informed on any given topic, that we'll be able to help you guys out with that.
Absolutely.
So go check that out. RIP to everybody who we lost this year. George Floyd, Kobe, everybody in between. Breonna Taylor, just, and then we have this guy who did the TikTok run. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, man.
He goes...
ran across the whole entire country.
Crazy. The whole thing.
Just... he had an RV following him, and that was just where he would sleep at night, wherever he stopped. And then he would run from that spot onto the next one and just keep it going the whole way. And it was nuts.
Yeah. June comes around following the George Floyd incident. NASCAR bans the Confederate flag.
Huge.
This was a big deal, obviously, because I think it was Bubba Wallace. He's one of the few minority drivers in NASCAR, and he had racial things kind of slurred at him. And he kind of brought it to the forefront. I'm sure he's dealt with that his whole career, but given the circumstances, he definitely brought it to the forefront. NASCAR winds up banning the Confederate flag. It becomes much bigger of a deal than it really, as a person standpoint, should. Yeah. But we kind of knew as Americans that it would be blown up because people really do care about that really, really bad symbol. But they know people care about what they care about, and they were not happy about this. But it's definitely the step.
Oh yeah, to NASCAR, because knowing that your whole fan base really surrounds itself around that, and you cut it out, that's huge.
Yeah, if you don't let them bring that around, then people aren't gonna want to do it because they're not going to be able to go see the things they want to do.
Exactly.
Or they're going to stop supporting it, which do you really want these types of people supporting your product anyway? Not particularly.
And on the flip side of not only them doing it because it's the right thing to do, it's great for the sport as well, because now you're not getting just a select few groups of people.
Yeah.
You're expanding past everybody, and people will feel more comfortable to be at events because maybe they don't want to be around it because they know the stigma that comes with it. They know the environment that it could bring with tailgating and stuff and just the people that are there. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely great for the sport as well.
No, you're 100% right. We had the June 10th moment that happened. That was a big deal. It was like a good recognition. Mm-hmm. Then we had like Bradley Beal is in this picture. He was there at some protests. And
big shout out to all the NBA players, NFL, and every athlete out there who has any type of platform out there leading marches, leading protests, just everything involved with it. A big salute.
Well, and then shout out to people even without a platform. People who have 10 followers on Instagram and are out here posting on their story that they're at these rallies, and they're at the rallies, which is the important part, and supporting and signing the petitions. You don't need to have a platform to still be
absolutely
appreciated in all these movements.
But a lot of people that do have platforms, sometimes they don't use it to their advantage. So when you see it, it's great.
Yeah.
This moment right here.
This was really cool.
Great. Like that picture right there, incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
And obviously it's just a moment, and it's going to take a lot more than this to kind of fix the whole thing that's happening with NASCAR. But for people who are like Bubba Wallace, who are a minority in a sport that's kind of deep rooted in these kind of beliefs, it was a really, really nice step forward to see.
And to bring it full circle, now Michael Jordan has partnered with him, so now you have a bigger minority within the sport, and that's just gonna elevate it even more, bro. And it's great.
Absolutely.
Shout out Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool finally wins. I think it was their first one in 30 years.
30 years.
And they've been obviously a great team for a long time, and they've had their ups and downs with like Giroud and all that. They win the Champions League, and then they come around and they pretty much dominate the Premier League. Really big win for Liverpool.
That picture is hard.
That is a really cool picture. That is absolutely a cool picture. We fast forward to July.
Shout out Myra Moore. A lot of the WNBA players, they did so much for the movements that have been going on in social justice issues.
If you're a younger girl or like a girl growing up, there is no better group of women in this country, in my opinion, to look up to than WNBA players.
Oh, they're amazing.
They are incredible.
They're so
They
dope.
put their money where their mouth is constantly. They put their jobs on the line constantly for the things that they believe in and for the people that they believe in. And this is a perfect example. Jonathan Irons gets released from prison pretty much thanks to Maya Moore, who
She sat out 2 years.
Yeah, she sat out and puts all of her energies towards getting this man released from a wrongful conviction. And again, puts their money where your mouth is for something she believes in. And she's one of the all-time greats, too. This isn't some scrub. Not that that would matter, but this isn't some scrub. This is like losing a Paul George. Maybe it's not the best example for how much we clown him. But it's like losing one of the superstars in your game.
Yeah, and it's really dope that you could see right at the bottom of the caption that we're getting a 30 for 30 sometime in 2021 to really shed light on the situation and give us more background information. So that would be dope too. Yeah,
that'll be a really good 30 for 30 just because, like you said, we're going to get a lot of insight on that one, but it's unlike other 30 for 30s where we've seen the stuff kind of play out. This one we don't know. We just know the outcome.
Yeah.
So hearing and seeing everything that happens behind the scenes will definitely be a really good watch.
Absolutely. We also had the MLS protest. We got the shall not be named football team. Just getting their name yoinked, not knowing how to have a backup plan, a plan B, none of that. Just FedEx threatening them to pull their partnership if they don't change their very, very bad name. And, yeah.
And they did it. I mean, I'm not going to say shout out.
No shout out because it took you to the point of no return to do it instead of, all right, we understand this is bad. Our fans realize this is bad. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know. But fans of the league know it's bad.
The people do.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Shout out to the football team though. Just football team.
Shout out to them making the playoffs.
Yes.
Winning the division, not having a name, different quarterback every week. One got one leg, one's taking pictures with fans at times.
And stinking when he's on the court.
So, yeah. A whole just wild thing.
Yeah, but this was good though because it kind of set in motion a movement to where now like the Cleveland Indians, or formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, are changing their name now. We don't know what to yet, but we know they're changing their name. Eventually the football team will get a real name and a real logo and all that, but it is not the R words, and we could not be happier about that, and it is a very good step forward. A lot of good changes were made this year in terms of mentality, and this was certainly one.
Yeah, definitely. The bubble.
NBA bubble, baby.
Amazing.
What a fun time. You had The Lakers coming in, they obviously go ahead and win the bubble at some point. We'll talk about that in a second. But then in the bubble, you get the Phoenix Suns going 8-0, and Devin Booker going nuts. Damian Lillard winning bubble MVP because that's an award now.
Yeah. You got situations of like Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell. They both dropped 50 in a playoff game, and now they both just see each other outside on the campus. And it's like, hey, well, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah, and
so stuff like that.
We appreciate Disney for hosting this.
Absolutely.
And for giving such strict guidelines. Nobody in the bubble got COVID. It was a completely contamination-free environment. And it was because of all the rules and the things that they made these players do and everybody, the staff and everybody involved do. And so we really appreciate that. We were able to get NBA basketball to finish its season because of it. The Lakers do get their championship. We got to see Jimmy Butler and the Heat make a cool run.
Yeah.
And
Jimmy makes an even bigger name for himself as just a dog.
And then Tyler Hero gets the song after him because of all this, and just cool.
We got Daniel House sneaking in the COVID workers, trying to get an extra shot up in the hotel room. Yeah. Gotta get your shots up, bro. Gotta get your shots up. You're in the bubble, nothing but basketball. I feel it.
But yeah, the bubble was a really cool thing. It was certainly unique.
And it's cool because, like, they're in a ballroom. Obviously, they'll have, like, events there, tables, chairs set up, and now they just got basketball courts in there and just teams practicing. Like, they got 4, and it's wild.
Absolutely wild. So shout out to that.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, but Alyssa Nakin becomes the first MLB on-field coach. It was a really, really big year for women in sports in general.
Absolutely.
Well, there's another 2 that we'll get to in just a minute because I know that happened a little bit later in the year.
Yeah.
But for baseball, good job on the Giants for hiring the person that deserves the job, and she certainly did. And she's going to be the first of many. So.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool when we could get more females having positions of power like that.
Absolutely. And then we get baseball just returning in general. Baseball comes back. Fans are not allowed, so you get stuffed animals, cardboard cutouts.
And that all started from, like, the KBO in Korea.
Where they had stuffed animals everywhere, especially for like, all the camera angles.
Yeah, behind home plate. Stuff like that's really cool. And, like, fans were able to buy cutouts of themselves, put them places. And even though you're not at the game, it's like, all right, we still get that, like, fan environment. Like, the players get to look up and see the fans still there. So it's cool. They still know people are supporting outside of the stadium. Yeah,
and then eventually the MLB did also form into a pseudo bubble kind of a deal once the playoffs turned around.
Barely.
Kind of. The NHL also had their bubble too, which was pretty much the exact same thing as the NBA bubble, but over in Canada.
I gotta say, the NHL bubble, their setup of, like, the arena, the way they had all the video boards and everything, really amazing. Cool. It looked cool. Beautiful.
Really, really cool. On the topic of the NHL, we get a new expansion team, the 32nd team to join the NHL, the Seattle Kraken. What's cracking? What's popping? Cool little, really cool logo, really cool team design, really cool uniform
Colors
in a fantastic city. Like, there's not much else that you could like more.
Like, we're all waiting for them to finally get a basketball team again. Hopefully they can get the Supersonics back. I think that would be really cool to bring them back. But you get a hockey team, and it's really cool. They get a nice rebrand, too. And we've talked about it, the way that they've rebranded just expanded with the Kraken and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They're both really well done expansions.
They weren't just slapdick put on. No. Like, this was well thought out, really well executed, and a city that deserves it. And like you said, with basketball, we have the Raptors in Tampa. If they decide to expand, look at Tampa and look at Seattle to be the 2 expansion teams. So.
Absolutely.
Very cool stuff. WNBA, they had their bubble as well. A lot of bubbles this year, but that's kind of the situation we were put in.
Yeah.
They have their bubble in Bradenton, and they spent their whole season, we talked about it earlier, they spent their entire season pretty much advocating for justice for Breonna Taylor and everybody else who has been, affected by police brutality. And it was really, really cool to see post-game interviews with them. Every single game, like clockwork. They were saying, we appreciate our team, good team win, but really we're out here to try and get justice for Breonna Taylor.
And sometimes they weren't even talking about the team. It was just straight Right to the point. NBA was doing that too. So big shout out, salute to everybody within the WNBA, NBA, and any other athletes around other leagues being able to use their platform like that. It's
Absolutely,
great.
and you can see the names on the back. Like they, it was really really cool. And then Juventus wins Serie A, really cool. Ronaldo,
Shout out.
does Ronaldo things,
Yeah.
and wins another league.
That's the start of the NHL bubble right there. The XFL, it goes under earlier in the year. They declare for bankruptcy. And then The Rock, he ends up coming back and buying it. So big shout out to that. I really, really enjoy the XFL. I think it's going to be a really big, important, like kind of G League development type thing to the NFL in the future. Like we've had PJ Walker after the season finished. He ends up going to the NFL, ends up getting a start with the Carolina Panthers, goes off, had a really good game. So like just stuff like that, being able to give athletes a platform to showcase their talents, another avenue to get to the league.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really cool.
Especially because once you leave college, it's really hard to kind of showcase that.
Or even if you can't go to college, but you still got the talent
Yeah.
to make it, and you just need that place to do it. And The Rock, I don't know if anybody's watched Ballers, really dope show on HBO. Go check that out. But this has a really big resemblance of something that happened in there. So I'm gonna keep it spoiler free. I ain't gonna do that. But yeah, check that out. And shout out to The Rock for bringing this
Shout out
back.
to the Rocks. Yeah, so we'll probably get the XFL sometime 2022, probably. But it is not dead as we thought it was when everything kind of happened.
Yeah, and the games were fun.
The games were certainly fun. We get Colin Morikawa winning the
Shout out.
PGA Championship as he's only 23 years old, and his second major championship, which is a big deal. Like, the only young people doing that was, like, Tiger. So, cool stuff. This we'll come back to in a second because Messi pretty much wants to leave Barcelona after a very embarrassing loss to Bayern. They lose 8-2.
Yeah, man. I remember we were talking on the phone when that happened, and you were like, they scored again? Because I think you were on your way to work or something. It's like, they scored again, bro?
They just kept doing it.
It was bad.
It was unnecessary.
It was really bad.
Daniel Cormier retires after losing his heavyweight title fight. He was obviously one of the best UFC guys for a long, long time, so his retirement is certainly a big deal.
Yeah.
And then you get,
Absolutely.
Here's that Messi
here's
thing
Messi.
again. And then we have the NBA turns multiple league-wide boycott. They pretty much boycott their games. This was a playoff game that was boycotted.
Yeah.
In wake of the James Blake shooting that happened just a month or maybe even less than the George Floyd incident.
Yeah.
So you're stacking this on top of all the unrest that had already happened in this country, and it's happened in Milwaukee, or not Milwaukee, but in Wisconsin. So the Bucks took initiative and decided to sit out of their playoff game, in which the Orlando Magic followed suit. The game just didn't happen, got postponed.
Yeah.
A couple of other games wound up doing it as well. Same with the WNBA. And this was just a really important moment because it was players saying, yeah, we know the playoffs are important, but there is bigger things.
This is more important.
And this happened in our community, not just locally, but like who they are as people. And this is something that we will tell you that if this happens, we will not play because we want our feelings to be known.
And it's big that the Bucks took initiative and did it first. Like, I know the Raptors were talking about they were wanting to do it, but considering that this happened in the Bucks' backyard, like, them to be the ones to do it is important. And then you also have the march with the players, the staff, everything led by the referees inside the bubble on the campus of Disney. So something like that's really dope too, seeing everybody come together, even though they're not allowed to go leave the bubble and go out to marches. But within their confines, they're making their voice heard.
Yeah, and they certainly did the most of that. So
Yeah.
we've said it a bunch of times, but athletes did a really good job.
Yeah.
September, we get the Kentucky Derby still happens. There's protests and things of that nature outside of it. Then we have SoFi Stadium unveils itself, which is the new home of the Chargers and the Rams.
Beautiful
Two
stadium.
teams who did rebrandings. Beautiful stadium. One team did a fantastic rebrand. The other, who's to say?
I'm not gonna say it.
Chargers did a great job, but the Rams were a good team this year. Made the playoffs.
They are.
So
You want to look good or play good?
yeah. Speaking of not looking good, the California fires hit in September. It was a very big deal that lasted throughout the entirety of September.
Yeah.
And it felt like a one-off thing, but I mean, we've seen this kind of happen before. It happened a couple of years ago in Australia where they had really, really bad fires.
We also started the year with a really big fire.
Yeah.
So
California and Oregon got hit with these fires that lasted just far longer than they should have.
Yeah.
This picture right here is unedited. This is exactly
nuts.
how the San Francisco Stadium looked. Like, this is what it looked like.
Man.
And so,
it's scary.
Games got postponed because the air quality wasn't good enough. People had to stay in their houses. This was a big deal. Thousands of people were affected by the California fires. I know a lot of my friends had to either kind of move out somewhere just to get away from it for a bit, or it was really close to them. This was a big deal, and it was just another thing stacking on top of all the bad that kind of happened this year. And it's one of the, for something as big of a deal as this was, it's like one of the things that's like more or less easy to forget of.
Yeah, because it happens so often with the fires, but it's like, that's a really scary thing to be involved in.
Yeah.
Like, especially when the air outside, like that's what you're breathing.
Yeah, you can't go outside. You can't go outside.
So it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. A couple days later, on better terms, college football came back. ACC and Big 12 start, which just starts a very, very odd year.
It was such a weird college football season.
I mean, you have Ohio State play 6 games, but then Clemson played 13. Oregon played like 5. Like, it was weird things.
Weird.
Very odd. But the national championship's happening. Ohio State versus Alabama is coming up around the corner. Then you have Naomi Osaka, who wins her 3rd major championship in the U.S. Open. She was wearing masks with different names representing people that we have lost.
Yeah, she wanted to sit out, but she realized that she'll make a bigger impact by continuing to play. And she made sure that she was letting it be known at all times. And big shout out to her.
Yeah, and so she got a message across too. If you're a cycle guy and you know what's going on here, tell us, because we are just...
I don't know where I was in the world in 2020, but I do not remember anything correlating to this at all.
It looks like a really bad idea for a Busch Gardens ride.
So please, drop it in the comments, whatever
that is, because we don't know. Amanda Nunes defends her title.
Big shout out to
her. She had a kid earlier in the year and then comes back and wins another.
She's a beast, man.
Absolute beast.
She's a beast.
And then, this is a cool one for us. Tampa celebrates. We had Tom Brady come to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay Lightning win the NHL bubble. And the Tampa Bay Rays winning the AL East pennant, or AL pennant, and then get smoked in the World Series. But the 3 Tampa teams that have put on a show this season, the Bucks still have more work to be done.
Yeah.
But they have an opportunity to bring 2 ships.
And it's cool that we got like a little boat parade as well, since we weren't able to get a real parade.
Yeah.
It was very Tampa, and it was cool.
Tampa.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and this is a great picture too.
It is.
October comes around, and you have the Seattle Storm win their championship for the 4th championship, which is like the tied for the most in WNBA history. Mm-hmm. Breanna Stewart leads them there. Really weird season for the WNBA too.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw the draft happen, and Sabrina gets hurt right away. But they were in a bubble the whole time. You can see all the Breonna Taylors on the back of the 3 jerseys that are turned to their back to us. So clearly this was a big deal for them. And I know even during the celebration they were talking about it. Like,
absolutely.
Really cool stuff. Same day, the Lakers win their championship. LeBron with another ring. AD with his first.
Man.
The first championship since Kobe in 2010. Obviously, this was a big deal for full circle kind of deals. And sports have a really, really awesome and interesting way of fulfilling like this destiny.
Yeah,
you see it with this
and healing.
Yeah,
as well.
In 2001 with 9/11, you saw it happen. Mm-hmm. Here you see it happen. The Boston bombing all those years ago, and the Red Sox kind of do it. You see sports be this very, very healing thing.
Yeah,
and LeBron being able to bring another championship to LA, the first of two.
Yeah.
Really big deal for the city.
Big shout out to that picture, too.
It's an amazing picture that needs to be a poster on this wall somewhere.
Yeah.
So, really cool stuff. Khabib retires at 29-0. An unbelievable career. Never losing with 29 wins.
Never lost.
Never lost.
Never lost.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the other LA victory. You have Justin Turner celebrating this trophy innings after finding out he has COVID with no mask.
It was such a weird thing because, like, the news breaks and we think it's fake. Like, oh, because he disappears off the field.
He just stops playing. It was very odd.
And we get the news of it and it's like, nah, no way. And then it starts feeling more real because bigger outlets are starting to report it. And then you see him just pop up like Batman out of the dugout with a mask. But then, obviously here, when they're taking the team picture, he has it on, but then he takes it off. Yeah. It was just a whole weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
But shout out to the Dodgers.
Big
Corey
shout
Seager,
out.
Mookie Betts, got it done.
And shout out to LA, being able to get 2 chips with everything that happened with them over this year. It was really important.
Yeah. November comes around, and this is election time. So you see professional athletes, collegiate athletes, all those in between really pushing voting. Young people probably voted as much as I've ever seen or cared about a vote as much as I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Which is obviously a really big deal, especially with kind of just how the world was going. Like, your voice needed to be heard. And whichever direction that was, if you're able to go out there and vote, it is appreciated.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
And you go, Notre Dame has a double OT win over Clemson.
Over the JV team.
The JV team. This win felt great. Let me tell you, it didn't feel so good a month or so later. They get smacked in the teeth by Clemson, and then immediately after by Alabama.
They get mollywopped.
And then Jimmy Johnson calls it a career for NASCAR. One of the best to ever do it. You know, great stuff. Dustin Johnson gets his long-awaited Masters championship. The best golfer in the world for a couple of years now gets his Masters. That happens in the middle of November. Tiger was able to be the reigning champion for over a year and a half and then give him the jacket after breaking his record for the
really
best
cool
performance.
Being able to see Tiger put the jacket on him. That's sick.
And he shot 20 under.
Insane.
Completely deserved it. And he was the first number 1 ranked golfer in the world to win it since Tiger. So a lot of correlations and like direct things happening here. Really cool picture, really cool moment. The Masters is always one of the best events of the year.
Yeah.
Hail Murray on the same day. D-Hop goes up in the Jordan commercial over 3 Bills defenders.
Look at that, man. Like, how? He's smushed between 3 people and just comes up with the ball.
Makes no sense.
And the way Murray scrambled out of the pocket, too, to make that throw. Insane. I remember being on the phone and having a talk with one of my boys. And he was trying to tell me some good news. And this happened, and I'm just going crazy. I'm like, bro, my bad. Well, what'd you say? I couldn't believe my eyes. Like, it was nuts. Like, he just caught that. To win the game, too. So.
And, that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Diego Maradona, Argentine legend, soccer legend. He passes in late November. Obviously, this is a really, really big deal because this is the biggest sport in the world, soccer, and he was the biggest player in the world for a good period of time. He passes away at 60 due to a heart attack. Just a big loss of a legend in a sport that this guy meant so much to.
Yeah, man. Even if you weren't really big into soccer, I'm sure the name still resonates with you. Because whether you just watch the World Cup, you see the highlights, or just hear something that he's done for his community, he was just, he was a GOAT. For lack of a better word, he was just a GOAT. And huge loss for not only soccer, but for the sports world.
Yeah, and another big loss, and we've covered it as the year has gone on, but when it comes to Kobe, Maradona, Lou Brock, a lot of baseball guys in particular, Tom Seaver, Al Kaline.
Yeah, we lost 7. Bob Gibson as
Bob
well.
Gibson. Like, these are big name guys, and he's right there at the top of this list.
Absolutely.
And so a rough year for losing legends. But
great year for women in sports, though.
yeah, and on a much lighter note, I mean,
Yeah.
we said we would get back to it, but women in sports had a fantastic year. Sarah Fuller, the first woman to score in a Power 5 football game.
Sick.
And as the kicker, the first game out, she didn't actually have an opportunity to kick a field goal because Vanderbilt stinks. But she was able to kick off a couple of kickoffs and comes in the next game and kicks a field goal right through the uprights. And it's a really big moment because, again, it's a breaking barrier kind of moment. Not just being out there, but impacting the game.
Absolutely.
And shout out to Sarah Fuller for that. Soccer
shout
legend, football legend. And then also the Miami Marlins hire Kim, I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think it's Nig.
But,
Big shout out.
she is hired as the GM of the Marlins. And I want to say that's the first American GM in sports.
Yeah.
So that's a really big deal, and there's nobody as deserving as her either. Jeter made the right decision hiring her. The Marlins are heading in the right direction, and she is the perfect one to lead them in that direction.
Absolutely.
So two just really, really good things for women in sports, and it happened to happen on the same day. Shout out to November 28th.
Also, shout out to November 28th.
Nate Robinson gets absolutely dunked
The
on.
slam dunk champ gets dunked.
Yeah, Jake Paul just brutalizes this man. Embarrasses him in front of everybody.
Everybody. That picture right there is just put in the textbooks. It's going to go down in history.
Yeah.
Put it next to Ali. But all jokes aside, though, it was wild. Seeing that happen, seeing Nate just get knocked out like that, bro. Ugh.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people put a lot of discredit on Jake Paul just because he is a YouTuber and we like to clown him. But he has put a lot of effort in becoming a boxer, and Nate was kind of just like thrown in this. I don't really know what the beef or anything was with them, but Jake really made a good statement with this, so happy for him. And now he's trying to fight Conor. So.
Yeah, he's trying to fight Conor. His brother Logan Paul is set to fight Floyd Mayweather.
Bananas.
And it's not shown here, but the main event for this card, this was the co-main event. We had Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, which definitely got overshadowed by this because this was certainly a fun one.
And it's crazy because like two legends coming back and fighting each other like that.
But Jake Paul steals the show. Crazy.
Jake Paul steals the show.
Crazy.
And it just makes no sense.
None. December comes around and we had a game for football every day of the week this year, which is the first time that has ever happened. The Steelers' Thanksgiving game got pushed back until the next Wednesday. We had a Friday game with the Vikings and the Saints. Tuesday night football happened because of COVID stuff. We had a lot of Thursday games.
We had a Friday
and then
football.
Towards the end of the year,
we had like a Friday afternoon football. We also had Wednesday afternoon football.
Crazy.
Like games are starting at 4 o'clock in the middle of the week. Like, excuse me?
Insane.
I'm not ready for football.
No.
Don't sing, Carrie. I'm not ready.
Please. And then we get the same day, Westbrook gets traded from the Rockets to the Wizards. And this is kind of amping up towards the start of the NBA season, which is starting on the 22nd or 3rd, which is significantly shorter of a season, off season than we usually get.
Yeah, man.
In fact, the shortest ever.
Quick turnaround.
And so now we're getting a shorter season by 10 games, which is not a whole lot.
It's crazy because you get the shorter season for the teams that were in the bubble, but you get the longest off season ever for the teams that weren't in the bubble. So they stopped playing in March. They didn't start playing again till December.
Yeah,
which is nuts.
It's a really weird duality because like the Knicks are just so rested.
Yeah,
just so rested.
That's probably why they're coming out looking explosive right now.
They're looking good.
So
they're looking good. But yeah, and so. Also, this is a really cool one. Jackson He, the first Chinese-born FBS football player to score in a game. Another great first in a terrible year, but a lot of firsts that happened in this year, and this is another great one.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird thing you would have expected like a Chinese-born player to have scored before, but it has never happened before. You can tell on the back of his jersey that he has his Chinese name on the back, and it was a blowout. And he was part of that blowout, and that's pretty cool.
70-7, ridiculous. And I really like that they have the nameplate like that.
Yeah,
that's really, really sick.
Also, you can kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but on the back of this helmet, there's the Black Lives Matter fist with like
with the Arizona State
with the pitchfork.
Yeah, that's sick.
Cool stuff. Cool
really
stuff.
sick.
This is a gross picture. I don't want to see that. This is a great picture. I do want to see this. Tiger and Charlie playing together, both in the black and red. One of the most iconic
on Sunday
uniforms ever on Sunday. They played together.
Amazing.
It's just
so
awesome
wholesome.
Stuff. They got 7th in this tournament. I think they were 20 under. Just a really cool thing to see a father and a son, the best of all time, and his son kind of competing.
And it sets up for, in the future, potentially getting more father-son duo stuff like this.
Damn.
With LeBron and Bronny. And then, obviously, back then, we had Ken Griffey Sr. and Jr. play together. So just stuff like that, the opportunity to play with your dad on the biggest stages. Obviously, really this was just a father-son tournament. But still, really, Tiger's really still in the game doing it. And maybe when Charlie gets a little bit older, they might do, a match that we've been seeing with Mickelson and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's cool.
And then we just talked about it, but the NBA back after the shortest offseason ever. It's just going to be a weird year because there's a lot of injuries. People might be more prone to injury or less because, again, the longer offseason for some guys where they've had time to heal, like the Steph Currys of this world. It's going to be a really interesting season. Shorter a little bit. I'm excited for it. We're a week into it now, and it's been great. So
yeah, it's great to have basketball back.
Yeah, and the NFL playoffs are starting, so sports feel a little bit more normal. Not fully, but a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's a new year now. We're out of 2020. Thank goodness.
Absolutely.
We have escaped that. We are in 2021. We know things don't change overnight, but we are excited for all the new things and change that is to come this year.
Absolutely, and continue to keep on grinding, better yourself, keep on working towards those New Year's resolutions you got. Don't quit on them.
Absolutely.
And just keep on making it happen. Make 2021 the best year. Put 2020, just like we said in the beginning of the episode, just way gone. Get it out of here. And yeah, just stay safe and keep it pushing. Wish everybody the best. And we're gonna get through this year a lot better than we did last year.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us for this whole year. Next year is going to be a lot better, and we'll check you guys out next time.
Later, everybody.